I think that's, again, going for it, right? Like we teach some of our students, especially ones that enroll and they, their finances might be tight. They want to find a preceptor on their own. Like we teach them how to find their own preceptors. And a lot of the times it's asking the right way, right? And a lot of
Absolutely.
times some of the opportunities that have come my way where I've had people mentor me or I've mentored others, it's literally being asked to, hey, can I buy you a drink and teach me about marketing? Or, look, man, you're doing really cool stuff. Can I pick your brain for 30 minutes? Or I'm struggling here. You know,
Yeah.
you seem like you've overcome this. What's your advice here?
I think that if you put yourself in the position of, hey, if somebody approached me and asked me, how would be the most successful way for them to do that? What would catch my attention the most? What would make me most likely to say yes? And in our school, we were given a list of people who in the past have acted as preceptors. That was what we were provided at the time.
Hmm.
And so you proceed to go down the list. And of course, sometimes you don't get a call back. Sometimes all you have is an email. And sometimes you have to Google their name and their town and call and leave a message. And my most successful matches for preceptors were, I'm really interested in this area. This is a weak area for me, and I would really, really like to learn. You've been recommended, which they were. You've been really highly recommended, and I would really value your time. And I really got a differing array of responses. Sometimes there was no response. Sometimes the response was, oh my gosh, I love having students. When can you start? I know that there is obviously with NPHub, the need, you recognize the need to match students with preceptors. And a lot of times I think that's limited by the employer. They say, we can't take students, it's going to slow you down. That was some of
Yeah.
the response I got. I'm not allowed to have students because it's going to affect my productivity. So there are a lot of different barriers. And I mean, I just kind of had to say, I really appreciate you getting back with me. And I think it's important to respond, even if the answer is no, because you never know when that's going to come up again. It's a very,
Yeah.
very small world in healthcare. But I think the most success for me was when I just said, you know what, I really, for cardiology, I had an amazing cardiology preceptor. She worked in a heart failure clinic. I
Mm.
think 4 or 5 other of my classmates had emailed her and also wanted to precept. And I said, look, cardiology has always been just a very scary subject for me. I want to be comfortable with it. And I think for different people, you're going to find different ways to connect. But I think that really hit home with her because cardiology was her passion, and her passion was to make it understandable for everybody else. So that's why
Right.
she picked me because I
No,
didn't know anything.
I think that's awesome. And again, like it's a reoccurring concept for everyone listening in that, it's going for it and it's being authentic. Like what you're saying that you did with finding a preceptor is literally what everyone is now saying about developing relationships, about being more likable, which is a science, about being better in business practices, whether it's sales, fulfillment, and it's all about being authentic. Like you go so often now in 2018 where people have their phone heads down on their phone, they're barely talking to you, they're not paying attention. You know, a lot of patients, there's a lot of articles about, when did your physician stop looking you in the eye and when did your provider, you know, trying to churn out 10 patients an hour, like every 2 hours, something stuff like that, where all people want is that sort of like connection,
Right.
you know?
And
That's that's
I agree with that completely. And I think that it's so, we understand the need. I'm in so many advanced practice nurse groups on Facebook where people say, I'm not graduating. I can't find a preceptor, help. And I realized that the first kind of attempts were probably not like that. They were probably like, hey, this is my name. This is my background. This is what I'm looking to learn from this rotation. Because we all know in specific programs, you have to have a pediatric rotation. It's not like,
Mhm.
oh, I want to do a pediatric rotation. It's I have to have this. But
Mhm.
I find that a lot of, I don't even want to say the more experienced nurse practitioners or advanced practice nurses, but they find that it's like, well, you've got to pound the pavement. You've got to come in person and appear and like solicit for a position. Everybody has differing opinions on it. I'm not offended when somebody posts kind of a plea for help, but there are so many that are posting that plea. It's almost like The Bachelor. It's gonna come down to what are you gonna bring to this rotation? What are your
Mhm.
goals? Because you have to have that in any kind of clinical log, your goals have to be listed. So share your goals with them. Hey, I am really bad at tympanic membrane exams. I want to be better at, the otoscopic exams, something, a goal other than please help, I need a preceptor, which you would think that that's few and far between, but I see a lot of that. Hey, lacking a preceptor, not going to graduate, help.
Yeah, I can't tell you, one of the biggest things we tell students is you're actively hurting yourself when you post something like, looking for a preceptor 120 hours in Chicago, and you're expecting someone else to respond. And again, it's like, for the students and the new grads and really the students listening in and the preceptors listening in, like, we know it's not their fault. Like, it's the students are put under this undue stress. And, I understand, and especially with nurse practitioners, they've always been responsible for finding their own preceptor. I personally think that model is broken. I do believe it's a university's responsibility. I've said it a lot, because they're the only ones that have to do this, right? MD programs, PA programs, DO programs have preceptors set up for them. It's just that simple. Right. For the schools thinking like, oh man, like, we don't have the budget to do this. Charge more in tuition. People will pay for it. Period. But the challenge of that is, like, when you need to figure out a way to differentiate yourself when you're asking for and requesting it. And the same thing in your career, like, people are applying to jobs or saying their markets are oversaturated. The truth is, it's if you're not doing, like, if you're expecting to go to school, graduate, and then get a job without having a unique differentiation to who you are, or even really an understanding of who you are to articulate that properly, then you very much fall in that bucket of, okay, just someone else. That's why you have college graduates that come out and they don't get a job. You have other college graduates come out and they get 4 job offers.
Yeah. I do think it depends. I think it, like you said, you kind of become faceless.